Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Jujutsu Kaisen, Season 3.
Yep, Jujutsu Kaisen, Season 3, Episode 9. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age. We're back for more Anime Night in the Dojo, and well, I don't know what to tell you guys. They really started phoning it in on the names of these episodes. This is Tokyo Number 1 Colony Part 3. Next time is Part 4. And the description of this episode, at least on Crunchyroll, is Yuji fights Higuruma. So do we even have to do this episode? Are we going to have to say anything, or are we just going to be watching an entire 20-minute fight sequence? Because that would be actually kind of impressive. You know what I mean? If it was just the entire the entirety of the episode is just him fighting Higuruma, that would be that'd be kind of intense. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but if that's what happens, I will just crop out that description and it'll be right there, and it'll just be, spot on, right?
That'll be the freaking copyright blocker.
Yeah, that'll be the copyright blocker. Just listen, guys. That's all that really happens right here. That'll be the new copyright blocker. It's just a vague description of what happens in the episode. I can assure you, this is what's going on behind the copyright blocker. Maybe I could just get a play-by-play that just is just like a what do you want to call that? Like a damn it, what is that called? Just what happens in the episode, in text form. Just play-by-play, just like somebody narrating what's happening.
Synopsis.
They have it on YouTube where you can have it be a thing that, people could read. There's a transcript. My God.
And synopsis.
Yeah.
This also works, but
yeah. But just the flat transcript of the episode and just like whatever's going on. So that'd be kind of funny if that would. But anyway, yeah. So if that's all that's happening, he did get out of the tub, and I got to make a Yu-Gi-Oh! Judge-Man reference. So, and once again, domain expansion after having awakened like less than 2 weeks ago. Crazy.
At most, like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so that's intense. So, the one thing I will say, just in case we don't get Reggie this episode, something that me and Age landed on when we were talking about the episode a little bit more after last week, when we were talking about like what he's covered in, I did find a still frame of like really close to Reggie's body, and they look like receipts. Which, if he's like an older being, like because he was resurrected, why is he covered in receipts? Maybe he's not that old. Maybe he's from like 80 years ago or something, where receipts were a thing already.
Well, yeah, we just know that he's.
I mean, I guess he could have been resurrected from like the 70s. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's one of the mages that made a pact with Kenjaku, and that's why he's here. Yeah. So he was brought here by Kenjaku, presumably resurrected, because most of the ones who made the pacts with Kenjaku have made them a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, the other thing that could be that I was very similar to looking to receipts is prayer slips.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, prayer slips are similar. Just something to that effect. There's a lot of paper. Maybe they're like luck fortunes or something weird like that too. Something like that. There's a lot of random slips of paper that Japan has for various things. So yeah, they're I should say they're pieces of paper with writing on them, but you can't tell what the writing says. So I just immediately thought receipt, because whatever. But anyway, all that stuff being said, maybe this episode is just Yuji fights Higuruma, and that's it. And then if that's the case, we're not going to talk about it at all, and that's just what I'm going to say, and we're going to end the review section. That's it. So if that happens, it has to be the whole fucking episode, though. Otherwise, say something. But if that is the whole freaking episode, then guys on the other side of the edit for the discussion and review, you can just go watch the timer reaction. That's it, because that's all I'm going to say. But anyway, that being said, people on Patreon, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the timer reaction, and people on YouTube beyond, we'll see you on the other side for the discussion and review, if there is one beyond just one sentence, just for the meme. But anyway, here goes something. Well, alrighty then. The description was accurate, but we do have stuff to talk about. So the video does not end here. We talked a little bit about it at the end of the reaction there, but yeah, accurate description. You know, crazy. How about that? If that was Crunchyroll, good job. For once. Wow. You know what I mean? This was just Yuji fighting Higuruma. We got Higuruma's backstory, a little bit more on his backstory. But the major parts of this are he awakened to his power by releasing domain expansion. Because, as shown in throughout this fight here, Judgman only exists during domain expansion. So when we see him awaken in that courtroom, Judgman was there. That means the second he awoke into his Jujutsu power, domain expansion. Then, over the course of the next 12 days, as pointed out by the narrator, because we got the actual time frame, we knew it was a little less than 2 weeks, so 12 days, all right. He reverse engineered Jujutsu sorcery from what is considered the peak at domain expansion all the way back down to the fundamentals.
Once again, he's a curse user. He's had no fundamental training. Literally, all of his abilities are just him self-teaching over the course of the Culling game.
Yeah. 12 days. Keep in mind, you guys remember how long it took Yuji to just learn how to use regular old cursed energy and get his little, lion claw things? You know what I mean? So, that, once again, during his backstory here, we got the fact that, during law school and all the other stuff that, he's very, he's kind of like Mike Ross, for those of you who are fans of Suits. He might not have that photographic memory that Mike Ross, the character, has, but he is one of those prodigy lawyers that just he had the information.
He literally has the entirety of Japanese law committed to memory.
Yeah. So he was just he just saw it as just he had it. He had the Java update, which keeps bothering me. You know what I mean? It's so aggravating. But he knew he had it all. He had a committed memory. It was nothing to him. He passed the bar. They showed that the graph of where he was at, and he was over here. Far right means top fraction of the first percentile, fraction of a percentile. He was probably the number one dude in his class when he passed the bar. You know what I mean? So that's why a lot of people were, just in awe of him and stuff like that. So just being, say, a genius to that level, generally speaking, you could probably apply it to a lot of things, and especially with Jujutsu sorcery, why not?
Well, yeah, that's what the narrator was saying. Most people considered him to be a genius at law, but the thing that he's actually a prodigy at is Jujutsu sorcery. His law is actually secondary. His law skill is actually secondary to his skill as a sorcerer.
Right. So that is pretty intense. But as it stands, the episode on the whole was presented very well. Once again, we were reminded that Yuji is a big deal. Baseline Yuji. I mean, we talked about this in episode 1 a couple years ago when we did season 1. Baseline Yuji, and we obviously didn't know it at the time. We were just pointing out baseline Yuji is beyond superhuman. You know what I mean?
We figured there was some sort of lineage something because of the fact that his parents were conveniently absent and stuff like that. But
we figured something was real. But the fact remained that he was, superhuman, just baseline, without any cursed energy, no technique, no nothing, just punching people.
Yeah, once again, one of the first things we ever see of him is him literally embedding a baseball into a steel pole.
Yeah, which the math on that is already insane enough as it is. So, baseline Yuji, still a big deal, and yeah.
And he's only gotten stronger since then.
Yeah, I mean, we can see here, with his shirt off, he is now built. You know what I mean? The dude got swole. Maybe he was sparring with Asterius and Don Machi in his off time.
That absolutely shredded.
Yeah, getting absolutely shredded. It's been a while since this kind of reminds me of like one of the big reveals in Clone High was if you guys saw the new series and into that, where Confucius, the character, the clone, he always wore like this big poofy stupid jacket, and his like lower half was always like very slim, and you know, it looked like he was like a skinny guy, and he just had like a big puffy jacket. No, he had the big puffy jacket, but he was super ripped underneath, and people were like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's just one of those things of like the kind of clothes you wear can hide your body shape and make you look a different way. Like a big example of that as well that a lot of people would always comment on was like Haru in Persona.
Yeah.
She always wears big fluffy clothing that makes her look kind of chubby when she's just as skinny as all the other girls.
Yeah. And in the case of Yuji, he wears, you know, he still wears the same clothing, but his clothing was always super baggy. You know what I mean? Like very modern NBA player warm-up attire. You know what I mean? Like super, super baggy. Easy to move in still, but, you know, just it covers you and you just kind of look like a square. You know what I mean? For the most part.
Yeah, and then even when he's wearing his Jujutsu uniform, he wears a like size bigger that's extra baggy on him.
Yeah. So that's just always been his style and stuff like that. So yeah, he's definitely improved his just like baseline body and stuff like that. But you know, at the end of the day, once again, this was a very solid episode. I like the Judgment as a concept. It has interesting different rules attached to it. It'll be interesting to see if Higuruma comes back, because he is a very interesting character, obviously, based on everything that they showed off in this episode. His potential is insane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll probably see more of him throughout the culling game. After the culling game, who knows? Because once again, like you said, he's probably going to turn himself in. But who knows with the fact that the entire laws of society are being rewritten as we speak.
Right, because Kenjaku is presumably in talks with the higher ups, quote unquote. We assume that's who they were at the end of last episode's Stinger thing. So him admitting to killing people when he awoke to his power for the calling game and stuff like that might be irrelevant, and just be like, yeah, so what? We don't care. It's not against the law anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, by old Japanese law, it would be against the law, but the entire world's laws are basically being rewritten at the moment because curses are public knowledge now and being integrated into law. Meanwhile, cursed law is also being rewritten, and there's just all sorts of stuff being changed. Plus, with how Kenjaku is, if he's actually having any input on the changing of laws, he's totally going to input some sort of might makes right rule of like, well, Higuruma is like one of the strongest sorcerers we know of, so he can basically get away with anything.
Right. You know what I mean? And he very well could become, you know, judge, jury, and executioner of any kind of anything, because, you know, based on everything we saw in his domain, the judge man basically knows all. And based on what happened, the only thing that would change that is his personal feelings on the matter. Like he did here with Yuji. Like he stopped using the Executioner sword, which, in case anybody missed it, is apparently a one-shot. It touches you, you die.
Yeah.
Like full-on poke of death, you know, finger of death. I made the Dead End Rainbow reference from Slime, you know. Hinata's original sword, the gimmick was why it's called Dead End Rainbow is because Rainbow has 7 colors. If she hits you with it 7 times, you die. In this case, 1 time, you die.
Yeah, if she hits you with it all 7 times, it's full-on soul erasure.
Yeah. Which, technically worse than death. Technically. So, but still, in this case, it just, if that had touched him, it would have been all over. So that's, and on top of everything else in between, because he talked about how with Confiscate, it would take technique. And since Yuji doesn't have a technique, presumably, since he's a son of Kenjaku, that I assume he could use blood manipulation.
Yeah.
That's something we've talked about.
I brought that up before. As presumably, he does actually have blood manipulation as his technique, or at least a technique. Because once again, the whole thing is like you're only people of sorcerer's bloodlines have techniques. You're either born with one or you're not.
Yeah.
which is why people assumed he didn't have one, because from what everyone else knows, he is from a nobody family. But presumably, since he hasn't actually awakened his technique yet, the confiscate couldn't hit it.
Right. So at the end of the day, he was only the ability to just use curse energy at all was taken from him, as we saw here. Yeah, well, once again, baseline Yuji is insane. He fought off the giant gavel, you know what I mean? Kept up with a literal prodigy, that kind of thing. So baseline Yuji is super spooky. No Black Flash, no technique, you know what I mean? So I hope this episode drives that point home for people that, you know, Yuji's a big deal, even without any kind of technique, curse energy, manipulation, anything. You know what I mean? So, will be the day where Yuji has a domain expansion. You know what I mean? Especially after what Tengen talks about in this episode with the evolution of domain expansions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's one of the other things I was going to bring up. The whole thing is, like, Higuruma awakens with a domain when, as Tengen was explaining here, this is one of the hardest points in history to achieve domain. Like, in the past, basically everyone had a domain because domains were significantly weaker. But as time has gone on, domains have become more and more refined and stronger and harder to achieve.
Right. So, once again, just further proving how exceptional these two individuals are. It will be interesting to see what they do with Higuruma going forward. Yuji was able to complete his mission and add the first rule that they wanted to have, which is point transfer, so that, you know, once again, based on what we had here, Higuruma had 103 points. He used the 100 to make the rule, kept the 2 for himself as like the reminder because of the first 2 people that he killed, as we mentioned, and then he gave 1 to Yuji. So since point transferring counts as points changing, so that's no different than you losing or acquiring a point based on the new rules resets your timer.
Yeah, transferring points resets the timer because it's points changing. Also, one of the things that was never really addressed was the reason why Higuruma's timer resets right here is making a new rule would reset your timer too, because it changes your point total.
Yeah. So, just based on stuff he was saying there, that's why. Even if since we're in Lawyer Town, the technicality of the situation, I assume that since it reset his timer on loss of points for creating a rule, your timer should still reset if you transfer just a single point, because it's still point changing, technically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, even if he didn't have his timer reset from setting the rules, it would have reset from him giving a point to Itadori, because at that point, both of their points would have changed, because his goes down a point, Yuji's goes up 1.
Right. So, example, Yuji runs into somebody in the future, and they haven't done anything in 18 days and 23 hours. They could just say, I give a point to Itadori. That should reset their clock.
Or Yuji could just give his point to them.
Yeah, or Yuji could give a point to them. So I think that's the whole thing with what they're trying to do, is they're trying to buy as much time as possible so that people that know each other can just sit there and, in theory, as long as they have points, Yuji and Megumi could just say, I give a point to Megumi. And then 10 days later, Megumi could say, you know, I give a point to Itadori. That's it. And they could keep it going indefinitely.
They just need 1 point between them. Just Yuji's 1 point can just be bounced back and forth between the 2 of them indefinitely.
Yep.
The whole thing with this rule, is just that now technically killing is no longer mandatory.
Yeah.
As long as there's points in the economy.
Right.
To be transferred around. And now it introduces a level of diplomacy to the game.
Right.
Instead of just killing for points, now you can actually negotiate points off of people or coerce people into giving you their points, so on.
Right. So the step one is complete, so that's going to be cool to see how that works out and stuff like that. Like we saw in the little preview thing, like Megami was demanding that guy give up all his points. You know what I mean? So if Reggie, I assume that's who he's talking to at that case, whoever he's talking to, assuming it's Reggie, says, okay, I can't beat Fushiguro, I'll give him all my points. Just because I have 0 points doesn't mean I'm out of the game. You know what I mean? He could go kill someone in 5 minutes and get a point back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he could still potentially gank someone else for their points or kill someone to generate new points or so on, and giving his points away means once again his timer's reset.
Yep. So it definitely adds a new interesting aspect to the game. But once again, this also, entire situation, that's step one. The next step is to get enough points to do another rule so that people can willingly exit based on whatever they were talking about to get Fushiguro's sister the hell out of here because, she can't do anything.
Yeah, she can't. Well, so that was another reason for this rule in particular, was just the fact that she's in a coma. She's incapable of killing anyone to generate points for herself, but now someone could technically transfer a point to her to keep her timer going. Though, once again, she's in a coma, so any points transferred to her can't be transferred away from her because she's not conscious.
Yeah. So, is she still in the coma, though? Because they showed her in the wheelchair and he was walking away from her.
She should still be. We know the wheelchair chick that we keep seeing, like in the OP and stuff like that, is the one with the kid who got turned into the doll by the principal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought that was his sister that he was walking away from. Maybe that.
Back when we saw like the brief flashback, I believe we see her in a wheelchair briefly, but once again, I'm pretty sure she's still in her coma, that she hasn't been woken up from it yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either.
But with the OP,
irrelevant whether she's in a coma or not, she can't fight.
Yeah, from what we've seen, like what we keep seeing in the OP and like a couple of other random flashbacks and stuff that we've seen, that we keep seeing, like the wheelchair girl, it's the one from the principal's backstory.
Right. So either way, step one is complete. It looks like we're also getting the Ron Simmons guy next time, so that should be something. But either way, another solid episode. This was very good across the board. Higuruma's character is interesting, backstory is solid, power obviously insane. You know what I mean? Very cool. So bravo. That's it.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to bring up about the new points rule is it also kind of fundamentally changes the game as well, because previously, you know, the whole thing was you kill people to get points. The thing is, though, now we have the rule in place so you know how many points everyone has, and a rule that allows people to transfer points. Meaning, mugging someone for their points is now the most beneficial way to generate points. Because before, if someone had 40 points, you could kill them, but you get 5 points, and their 40 points go into the ether.
Yeah. Because there was never, I don't think there was any rule that said if you kill somebody with, say, 100 points, that you get their 100 points.
Yeah, that was never part of the rules. It was just if you kill a sorcerer, you get 5 points. It didn't matter how many points they had.
Yeah. So, it's a very interesting situation. Yeah. Again, glad we got to talk about it. Obviously, I didn't think we were going to go through an entire episode without any kind of anything to talk about, but it would have been kind of funny. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond head for watching. As always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the dojo. And this is Jujutsu Kaisen, Season 3, Episode 9. So have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.